artist guys that do not make fun of my diagrams of back of the heads. Okay, so we just dropped down this guide. And we're cutting from here out. And I'm going to ask you why. Why do you think I would cut from the center out rather than going from one side to the other? Does anybody know?
Keep it even, right? Straight line.
Yes. And let me kind of break that down a little bit more. If you were to take a line and draw it from one end of this board to the other, you can tend to slope or go higher up. Whereas if you were to take and draw from here out and from here out, you're cutting your distance in half. Therefore, you're going to be more balanced, you're going to be more accurate. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Okay. Moving on. Now, this is called the blunt or 0 degree haircut because there is no elevation. So the most critical part of this haircut is you want to keep that hair flat to that neck or back, depending on how long it is. So we're going to take and we're going to comb all that hair down to where you see your guide, which is right there. And I want to look and make sure that my fingers and my comb are parallel to not only the floor, but the parting that I have. So I'm going to comb all that hair down, cut palm to palm, which means both my palms are facing each other. This is going to help you reduce wrist injuries such as carpal tunnel syndrome or arthritis later on in years of cutting. A lot of people want to cut like this and all you're doing is crushing the nerves and tissues in your wrist. So over years that begins to swell and blood circulation doesn't start flowing through to the hands anymore and you start getting numbness, your fingers start falling asleep, and those are signs of carpal tunnel syndrome. Receptionists and administrative assistants get it very, very much too because they're always doing this on their keyboards all day. I'm a drummer and I've been doing that for years, so that also kind of added to my injuries.
You're a drummer?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
From the center out, I'm going to follow my guide from the back.
How much talent can one person have?
It's called boredom. And I'm directing, even the hair on the side, I'm directing all the way straight to my guide in the back. Again, I'm looking at my fingers, my arm, the angle of my comb, making sure not only is it parallel to my guide, but to my partings. Now, we want to check. Once we've cut, we want to check. And the way that we're going to check this haircut so that it's balanced, and we don't have to go back and redo the whole thing later, is tap all the hair into the spine of the comb. And you want to come down at eye level, and this is going to tell you where you need to make any adjustments. And I got one little ridge right there. Now you have a nice, balanced, accurate back design. This is going to be your cutting guide for the entire rest of the haircut. Now I'm going to continue to bring down sections to cut because I now have a guide to cut to, utilizing the wide tooth of my comb. I'm going to bring down half-inch sections to inch sections depending on how thick the hair is. My hair is really fine. I can clearly see my guide underneath, so I know I can bring down a little bit more. If you cannot clearly see your guide, you need to take thinner sections. Repeat this on both sides. Thank you.
That makes sense.
Because remember, time is money, so if you can go faster and still be accurate, then take thicker sections. As long as you can clearly see.
Mm-hmm.
See all this hair that I haven't cut? I can still clearly see my guide underneath. The hair is real thin.
Right.
We're going to start in the very center back, utilizing the fine teeth of the comb so that we maintain control and tension. My fingers are pushing the comb. My fingers are literally married to that comb until I see my guide disappear into my comb. Then I remove my comb and cut, working palm to palm.
Why is this one of the hardest cuts? Probably the hardest
Because
cuts for me.
it's so visual. It is so visual. Where, long layers, like what you have, can be easily disguised with product, with curling, with ironing, or going in and doing a little bit of slide cutting. That could all be disguised, just like she has long layers. You can't notice a lot of mistakes on that because there is so many various textures, meaning this is all very hard, one solid weight line,
Right.
which is your bottom. So your eye is drawn to where? Your eye is drawn to the bottom.
Right.
So everything you see in this haircut makes a big difference as to how you do it. But that's why people think that this is going to be such a simple haircut. This is because there's no layering. It's one of the hardest haircuts.
Right.
But it's one of the very first haircuts everybody should learn. And since I went to school back in the 80s, this is exactly the first haircut they showed us. Making sure your fingers and comb are married together again until you see those guys disappear into your comb. Cut palm to palm with short, small snips. Palming your shears when you're not cutting.
You guys, you learn so much every time I see this haircut. It's like crazy. You're never done learning this haircut.
Never. Never. And I'm going to continue up the head with, again, 1 inch to 1/2 inch partings, depending on how thick the hair is. But the ultimate goal is to be able to clearly see my guide. What
And
is
that's
it
just
with that clip?
It's just like the last, the back
Thank
two sections and not the front ones yet.
Right. Right. All we're focusing on is the back. Okay. Now, I'm going to continue the same thing as I've just been doing, working from the center out to cut my distance in half. As you can see, I have very little hair to cut. I'm getting to where I'm just cutting little pieces that are flyaways. I'm keeping my fingers and comb together. I'm making sure that I'm palming my shears when I'm not cutting. And I'm also focusing on the angle of my arm and my cutting fingers. Just like we were reading in the chapter this morning, the angle that your fingers are in is your cutting angle. We also try to avoid cutting beyond our second knuckle, either on top or below the fingers. The reason for that being is from that second knuckle on, first of all, you could cut yourself, which you're going to, I promise you, it's going to happen. That's why we keep first aid kits here. I still cut myself, even 27 years later. But we don't cut past our second knuckle simply because if you were to take your fingers and hold it up to a light, you'll see that there's a gap from your second knuckle on. There's no control or tension on your fingers. That's also the other main reason why we don't cut past our second knuckle. You don't have the same tension or control as you do between the first two knuckles. Okay, and the rest of this hair now, I'm going to just bring it down. Now, we're working with the top area of the head where sometimes you have cowlicks, whorls, growth patterns. You're going to take and use the wide tooth of your comb to naturally comb it out into its natural falling position. So you don't force it into an angle that it doesn't want to go into when you cut it. Now we're going to go in and cut from the center out any left pieces that extend beyond the design we've created. Keeping their head up or slightly forward is also going to help you maintain a 0-degree level of elevation. Work from the center out, making sure that you're directing all the hair to your back guide. And at this point, we're going to comb the hair into place. And we have a nice, solid, blunt, or one-length design. Now, we're going to continue on to our sides. We're done in the back. So what I like to do is I like to take a small horizontal parting along the sides, and I